Off season seems like the news and notes never end for this team. I'm joined by our Thunder coverage team, Eric Horn here in studio and remotely from the West Coast by Anthony Slater. Let's get right down to it. Eric, let's start with you. Alex Abrinish is coming, joining the Thunder. At least that's what we believe to be the case. He's leaving Barcelona to come and join the Thunder roster. This has been a move that, frankly, our friend Anthony Slater has been asking about for, I don't know, what, 3 years, Anthony? Has it been that long?
At least, right? Since the draft.
Yeah, lots of questions, but Eric, let's start with you. Who is this guy?
It's confirmed, by the way.
What's that?
It's confirmed. He's coming.
Okay, all right. We haven't seen an official release from the Thunder, so I assume there's a chance maybe a physical or something goes horribly bad.
Yeah. 3 years, a little under 17 mils or a little under 18 millions from what I've heard.
Right. Okay. Well, Eric, let's talk about who is this guy and what can reasonably be expected out of him.
I mean, 22-year-old guy. He came off the bench for FC Barcelona this year. He was one of the best young players in Europe. He received the Rising Star Award for the best under-22 player in the European league he played in. And he's a guy that he's going to provide some shooting. He's going to struggle defensively. I mean, as you'd expect for a guy in his first year in the NBA. He's slight. He's somebody who can be a punch off the bench. And there's going to be a transitional period, you know? I mean, it would be that way for any guy that's going to be experiencing his first NBA action. But, I mean, it's a guy that people have been looking forward to seeing for, I guess, like we said, 3 years since that James Harden deal went down, and he was a second-round pick in the 2013 draft. And it's going to be interesting to see how he meshes into the Thunder and maybe provides them with some more outside shooting that they're going to be missing because they don't have Kevin Durant and Serge Ibaka coming back.
Yeah, definitely. So, Anthony, what about the way that this move plays in to potentially trying to keep Russell Westbrook? Obviously, a lot of moving parts that we're looking at here when it comes to, you know, numbers and on-court production and those sorts of things. But how does this play into the Westbrook equation?
Well, this to me is a little bit like the Oladipo trade, the Ibaka trade, whatever you want to call it, from a few months ago when people were like, well, how does this play into the Kevin Durant thing? I think it's just Sam Presti saying this is the best move for the future of this organization. Russell Westbrook, if he wants to be part of the future of this organization, should like the move because it's a young guy on a good contract who they think is going to be pretty good. He's a shooter to spread around Westbrook, which they desperately need now, especially after losing Durant and Ibaka. And it allows them to let Dion Waiters go, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a second. But so it makes sense to keep the flexibility open to potentially extend Westbrook, to make other moves down the road. Do they absorb somebody in a trade? Do they keep more money to attack? You know, the Blake Griffin thing has been floated out there, but just any type of free agents next year. It's just a smart move as this thing moves on to the future. If Russell Westbrook doesn't care about that future and is like, you know, whatever, then, I mean, the path kind of lays itself regardless. So I think this is a move, like I said with the Oladipo one, that if Durant stays, good. If Durant left, fine. I mean, they still wanted Oladipo. They still want to move, just like they're going to want Abrinish regardless on this contract.
Yeah, and you mentioned Oladipo. We'll get to him in a second because Anthony's working on a story about him for the weekend. We'll get to Waiters in a second as well. But, Eric, you mentioned Abrinish coming off the bench. What is it about his name? It's got me all
It's tricky.
Abrinish.
I'm not even sure exactly what – I think it's Abrinish.
I think that's how Presti has said it.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's just, as you said, you kind of just want to say Abrinish.
I'll try to get it right by the time they introduce him officially. But is he a for sure bench guy, or is there a chance he potentially starts? I mean, I can't imagine it right away with the transition.
I mean, there's a small chance, but I don't think you would want to throw a guy in there who hadn't had a lot of starting experience in Spanish basketball into starting in the NBA. I mean, if you're going to go the route of having a guy that might have some defensive deficiencies, you probably want to go with an Anthony Morrow or even an Andre Robertson or a Kyle Singler at small forward, or because you'd assume that Victor Oladipo is going to start as shooting guard. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to have somebody that has like maybe that defensive deficiency, like I said, you probably want to go to Anthony Morrow, who has that more experience, and then bring Abrinish in a little bit more slowly. I think that would be at least the way I would go about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one thing, and I know Eric kind of had this. He talked to Fran Fraschilla, who's like probably the best expert on international guys in the country, but what they really like about Abrines is what he meant. He came off the bench for Barcelona. I mean, he's played a role with like adults. He's not coming off of college or the D League. Like, this guy played with adult, professional, 30-year-olds, good players in a very good Euro League, and came off the bench and is used to a six-man role. So he's probably coming over here comfortable doing that, and I think that's kind of important to them.
Yeah, and as we kind of are interspersing all these guys in different topics in different ways, but let's talk Dion Waiters for a second, guys. Is it really over, Eric? Is the Dion Waiters era done in Oklahoma City?
I mean, it appeared to be over when the Victor Oladipo deal was made, and then it appeared to be even more over when Alex Abrines deal was made, and then with the Thunder basically rescinding the qualifying offer, it seems to be another nail.
Really done.
It seems to be done, like well cooked done. I mean, there's still a very small chance that he could come back, but this is creating flexibility for the Thunder in terms of getting that potential cap hold, not potential cap hold, the cap hold off the books once he either signs with another team or they completely give up his rights. And that would have been $12.5 million. That would have been holding up the Thunder's cap.
Right.
And then it offers the opportunity for them to give Westbrook a raise this year if he does want to sign an extension. That's still up in the air. But it's going to be tough to see Dion Waiters coming back and having to climb that hurdle of Victor Oladipo.
Right.
There's going to be Andre Robertson playing some shooting guard. There's going to be Anthony Morrow. And now you got Alex Abrines in the fold, too.
Right.
So where are the minutes coming from for Waiters? And where's the money coming from for Waiters, more importantly? He would play if he came back. But is the Thunder going to be able to shell out the money that will be able to get somewhere else, or the amount of years that he'd be willing to get somewhere else, too?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, from what I heard, like, if Durant came back, Waiters was coming back because, look, they'd be over to the cap. They would have to feel like they wanted to maximize next year's team because it was going to be kind of like potentially a final shot at the title. It was going to be a little bit like this past year and why they matched Canner. But once Durant left, that kind of made Waiters expendable to the point that I think through this whole process, they've kind of had an offer on the table that's, like Eric mentioned, a short-term deal under his market value. And it was like, is he going to take it? And if he's not going to take it, he's going to go elsewhere. And I think they found through this process, and very understandably from Waiters' side, he wants longer years and he wants, probably 12 or more million. And they just can't sink that type of money or years into him. And that's why at this point, by rescinding the qualifying offer, I mean, it's done. He's looking elsewhere. My assumption is he's not even talking to the Thunder at this point.
So it's safe to say there's no more and one by our man
There'll be
Dion
some,
Waiters.
but-
That's disappointing.
No?
It is. It's
It's-
sad, because he grew a ton. I mean, not to get sentimental or serious on it, but like, the Thunder, I thought, did a great job with him. And, I thought if Durant comes back and he's back in that role, like, he was kind of developing into the role I thought he should have in the NBA, which is a six-man, extra playmaker on a winning type team. Like, it seemed like the environment, the situation was really good for him. Now, is he going to be starring on the Nets or the Sixers next year, shooting 30-something%? And I just think, the Durant thing has so many reverberations, but, like, it could potentially be very bad for Dion Waiters' career.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. Like, I'm almost under the impression that it might be good for him to even come back on a 1 year, on a smaller deal, play again with the Thunder.
And one lives?
Yeah, the and one deal. Like, to come back on a short-term deal with the Thunder for a year and then re-enter free agency again in 2017, and then people might have another chance to go at him again with another deal.
If he does
but
that, can we use the and one headline, please? We've got
sure,
to.
certainly.
We
Anthony.
could, but don't put any stock into it, because look, this is a guy from South Philly. You guys know his story, and he's about to get his first big payday.
Right.
Like, this is the contract that guys like him live for, that second contract after the rookie deal, and he's just hitting free agency at this great time. Like, he's gonna get paid by somebody, and he's gonna take it, and like, nobody could begrudge him for that. I mean, it's just, it didn't work out. I don't think like it could have been best for him, which would have been getting the money, but coming back to the Thunder with Durant back and in that same role he was in last year. That just doesn't exist anymore, not even in Oklahoma City.
Right. Hey, just to remind people, you're watching Thunder Thursday. It feels like we're having the wing edition of Thunder Thursday as we talk about all things sort of perimeter involving
That's the hole on this team, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big topic. Well, Victor Oladipo was brought up earlier, Anthony, and you're working on a piece for the weekend for our Sunday newspaper. What can you tell us about that? And obviously his acquisition, when it was done, you felt like, wow, this guy playing alongside Durant, Westbrook, on down the list. Now, obviously, that is up in turmoil. What about Oladipo at this point?
Yeah, it's not like any type of substantial piece, but it's just he's been in Vegas, and I was in Vegas the last couple of days. Talked to Kevin Durant Monday, but talked to Vic yesterday. It would have been 2 days ago. And he, like Greg Popovich is coaching the select team this week, so he's had a lot of time just sitting there soaking up, wisdom from Greg Popovich. I saw them after practice talking for about 30 minutes, and just kind of how good this week potentially is for him, number one. And then number two, it was just interesting to talk to him post Durant decision, because the first time I talked to him as a member of the Thunder was in Orlando. It was about 2 days before July 4th. And, he was talking about, he was texting all his friends emojis of a ring, and he was so excited to play with Durant, who had been texting him that he was going to love it there. And not to get too deep into that, but I mean, it's an interesting part of this tale of this guy that got traded to what he thought was a championship contender, and that kind of crumbled 2 days later, basically. But also, apparently he's been in contact with Russell Westbrook. They're planning on, hanging out in LA, and also just kind of a look at, what those two could be together, but also Victor Oladipo understanding that, like his partnership with Kevin Durant never happened, there's a chance his partnership with Russell Westbrook never happens.
Yeah, definitely. So, Anthony, you referenced the USA basketball experience and all the things that are happening or have been happening in Las Vegas, and obviously Kevin Durant talking extensively with media, not in just the Bay Area for the first time. You were there the other day when he sat down for the first time with reporters. What was your impression of him? What really stood out to you about just what you heard and saw from Durant?
He was in a good mood. I think the last few weeks have been kind of tough on him because you guys know him. He's kind of a sentimental, emotional guy at times, and he's very aware of the reaction. And it was the first time, like you said, it was the first time an Oklahoma City media member had been asking him Thunder-related questions, and he's a guy very aware of his surroundings. So, he knew what I was going to ask when he saw me, that kind of stuff. I thought he was good about Oklahoma City and reflecting back on the years there and kind of saying, I was hurt, just because I knew how much I hurt them. And it kind of made me think, like, why hadn't his team put him out there earlier? This is a guy that can handle himself in media settings. Like, he should have been saying these things a day after, the same day, 2 days after, not 2 weeks after. That was to me one of the stranger parts of this whole process, is how quiet he did when he kind of just disappeared. And didn't really speak to these Thunder fans. He didn't have like a back page ad in the paper. You see that with almost any athlete that leaves after being in a place for a long time. So I thought he was good in that sense, but also this thing with like Westbrook is kind of strange. Like, he doesn't want to talk about it much. Like, that clearly ended on a sour note,
right.
And I think he's sad about it. I think. Like, even the mention of it kind of like puts him in like a sad mood. Like, he doesn't even want to think about what Russ is thinking about him right now. That's almost kind of what I got from him.
Well, that is interesting because, Russ could have been on this team with him, Eric. I mean, let's be honest. Russell decides shortly after the Thunder is bounced from the playoffs that he's not gonna do the Olympic team, but he could have been. Boy, talk about strange dynamics, but
awkward.
Totally awkward.
Dodging a bullet.
Durant did dodge a bullet in some ways, I think.
In a way less situation, Harrison Barnes is here this week, and he's not on the Warriors anymore because Durant. I mean, like, there's a lot of like
Harrison Barnes isn't the only one that can say that.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, Eric, what about that? I mean, the Westbrook thing. Durant, as Anthony said, seems very sort of melancholy about it, and yet we assume it was somebody within Durant's circle that leaks that story that says it was that relationship that was, that just didn't work, that helped force him out. I mean, he had to know that was going to happen in the aftermath of all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, just knowing what we know about Russell Westbrook, you had to know that if there was any kind of animosity between them, and if that relationship ended a little sourly that Russell was going to take that as a personal slight almost, and take that into the season with some extra motivation. Anthony reported it. I'd heard reports of that Russell is excited about going into this season and kind of trying to, I guess, prove or say that he's going to be a good team without Kevin Durant.
Right. And
he's going to be prepared to play. I mean, you wouldn't think anything else of Russell Westbrook, but I mean, the whole not being there for the Olympics thing with Westbrook, it is fascinating because that would have been such a fascinating media spectacle for those two to be in the same room.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a what if for you guys. What if Russell Westbrook is on this team? What if he was in New York a few days before free agency when Durant was there remember when they were getting unveiled? And Draymond Green was there, and Klay Thompson was there, and Carmelo apparently was like really trying to recruit him to the Knicks. Like, what if Russell's in that setting, and what if Kevin Durant knows if he makes a decision he's going to have to face Russell Westbrook a week later? Does that change the decision? I mean, you'd think no, but knowing Kevin and knowing Russell Westbrook and how he is, like maybe that tilts it. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like that Durant was pulled by people, so is it crazy to think he might have been pulled by a guy that he played the last 8 years with? I don't think so, Eric, is it?
It's interesting to think that what would Durant's thought process have been if he knew that Russell Westbrook was going to be in Olympic camp? Mm-hmm. Russell Westbrook made that decision that he wasn't going to participate in Olympic camp before Durant made his final decision.
Right.
So it would have been fascinating.
One thing I will say, you mentioned talking to Kevin. He was adamant. He said it. I talked to him a little bit, not on the record, and he's saying, look, I handled this process, this was my decision. I think it's been not necessarily overblown, but I do think other factors were definitely involved, but he just wants to make it clear that he wasn't just a wayward soul that was just like, tell me where to go, everyone, and they just pushed him there. Like, he was involved in this decision. He needed probably a little bit of coaxing, but he wanted to go to the Warriors, I'll say that.
Well, and I don't think he would have made that decision had he not wanted to. Mm-hmm. But I think we've all sort of heard tale of, just all the factors that came into this, whether it was the business dealings, better shoe sales, just kind of mixing up,
for sure.
Sort of reinvigorating his individual brand, I think, by this decision, which when you've got people involved that are agents and business people and family, and they're impacted by that decision, I think maybe they see it a little bit different. But I get what you're saying, Anthony, and Eric, if you want to hop in at all. I mean, this is not a decision that he would have let somebody make for him. I mean, that seems crazy, but
I think he needed people to tell him it was okay, mm-hmm. and to push him in that direction. But I just want to reject the notion that he always was just wanting to go back to the Thunder, but people forced him to go.
Yeah. Although I think it's interesting to talk about this issue of the players that were around him, because, Eric, you even asked Sam Presti the day that Durant made his decision about the fact that no players were at that meeting in the Hamptons, and he said, well, guys met with him before. Mm-hmm. We wanted to, have that done sort of when it wasn't in the midst of all that. But it is an interesting aspect of things that he kept coming back to the fact that those guys from the Warriors were in the room. He even talked recently about how much he was impressed by Tom Brady being there on behalf of the Celtics, to have other athletes around. And that was something the Thunder did not do.
I'd imagine it's something the Thunder are going to think about going into future negotiations.
Yeah.
I mean, like Sam Presti has said before, they've been talking to this guy for 8-9 years. There's been constant discourse. So, I mean, whether they felt it was necessary to have those players in the room, I mean, that's up for debate. But it certainly probably wouldn't have hurt them to have some guys in there, I would think.
Yeah, definitely so.
From their side of things, though, on this one, I think that they had Russell and Nick Collison sit down with him a couple days before free agency, and from what I heard, like 4-hour dinner, a lot of stuff was talked about, I think. And then beyond that, I know what you're saying with Brady, with, all the things he's saying about the Warriors, but the truth is the Warriors had to prove to him and show him how, Steph Curry had to tell him, hey, you can come into this locker room and I won't care if you're MVP. He needed to see some stuff from Iguodala. He doesn't need to know how Steven Adams and Russell Westbrook interact. Like, he's been around everything. I mean, maybe like he needed the immediacy of it. But the problem is, like, remember Sam Presti was always saying we're not trying to create an alternate world, an oasis. Like, he knows the Thunder, so I don't think it was as big a misstep as maybe some people think. But I mean, if that's what would have brought Kevin Durant back, maybe it was the biggest misstep of his franchise's history.
And who's to say that those feelings weren't made known by Westbrook and Collison in the meeting that they had with him?
Sure.
I mean, they could have said the same thing if they went to the Hamptons, but they might have already said it in the meeting they had with him. They might have opened up to Kevin and said, "Hey, these are the reasons, these are the selling points, this is why we want you to remain a part of the Thunder family," and all that jargon that they use.
Right, and it's not to say that it would have changed his mind. It's just interesting. It's interesting when you sort of hear him talk about the Warriors that were there, the players, and then the other athletes who were involved in the whole process, and the fact that the Thunder, and I hate to be deconstructing the Hamptons meetings on July 21st, 3 weeks after the fact, but it's got to be something that when you're thinking about it, you've got to at least have it in your mind.
The more and more I think about it, the more I just kind of think he was leaving. He kind of knew he was, and he was searching for where to go, basically. That's just kind of the deeper we get away from this, I just kind of think that was on his mind to.
Well, he's obviously found a new home, and as we mentioned earlier, ripple effects continue. We'll continue to follow those as news continues to evolve with Russell Westbrook, Alex Abrinish, and others. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.